And hello again, everyone. I'm Chris Lincoln. Well, the most famous thoroughbred race in America, the Kentucky Derby, is set for this Saturday at Churchill Downs. We get a preview now of the 120th Run for the Roses from Mike Hartnett in Louisville, Kentucky.
The Kentucky Derby is always a spectacle, but this year may be a very special Run for the Roses, mainly because of the quality of three-year-olds who've gathered in Louisville.
There are 10 of them here who might have won last year's Kentucky Derby, and just as a fan, I'm pumped up for this race, for the first time in several years.
The best of this bunch may be Holy Bull. Blazing speed best describes the early Derby favorite. Speed that propelled him to back-to-back wire-to-wire wins in both the Florida Derby and Bluegrass Stakes. The Twin Spires and Churchill Downs. Is this the perfect stage for this bull to rage? At any rate, Holy Bull has been the main player, the main focus of all the pre-Derby conversation.
I think whoever's next to Holy Bull is going to win the Derby. I think, if you're away from him, it's not going to mean it. So I'd like to be close to him, Holy Bull. I think he's definitely a horse to beat.
If Holy Bull gets loose and controls his own pace, then he's going to win. I mean, if somebody else goes on a kamikaze mission, or there's, just a tremendous early heat in the race, Derby history says they're all going to fall apart, and you're going to have one of those derbies where the horses are charging from out of the clouds.
I hate to concede the race to him by just letting him have an easy lead, but I don't think we'll be the ones right behind him. But we're just prepared with our horse's style that he has tactical speed, where if nobody does want to go with him, or whether they get tired of chasing him early, Gary will just keep an eye on him and make sure that when they're going to the 3/8 pole or something like that, he'll probably go after that horse.
And should one or more in the field try to put some early heat on the front-running bull, no problem, says his trainer.
That doesn't concern me at all, really, because I know this horse don't have to be in front. And I mean, he has a lot of natural speed, but he does it easily. You never have to send him. So that don't worry me at all.
Holy Bull has been spectacular so far, but we really don't know if he wants to go 1.25 miles. Jimmy Kroll hopes he can and thinks he can, but nobody really knows.
And that's why others are here to challenge the bull, like Bracco, the Santa Anita Derby champ, who has really thrived since arriving at Churchill. And there's the consistent Tabasco Cat, who, like Bracco, has enough early speed to try to keep up with the pace-setting Holy Bull. And this Derby field has a solid group of runners with a late kick, like Strode's Creek, who's handled by a two-time Derby-winning trainer.
Just 1.25 miles. So it'll separate the men from the boys.
Derby roses could be blooming for Bloomin' Affair, who also likes to make one big run from off the pace. And as they say, pace makes the race. And that's why the spotlight shines brightly on Holy Bull, who so far this spring has been too tough to catch. For the Racehorse Digest, I'm Mike Hartnett.
Well, thank you, Mike. And as he mentioned, the attention certainly is on the Derby favorite, Holy Bull, owned and trained by Jimmy Kroll. Holy Bull got a bit of a scare on Monday at Churchill Downs, just arriving there from Keeneland, his final breeze on Monday morning. He was cut off at the 5/8 pole by a Pony Boy on the racetrack. Holy Bull pulled up fine, though, and is in good shape for the Derby. Well, this past Saturday, Churchill Downs had its season open, its traditional feature, the 70th running of the Grade 3 Derby trial at a mile. 6 started on a sloppy racetrack. Dynamic Asset was on the lead. But here comes the favorite, Numerous, ridden by Chris McCarron for 81-year-old Hall of Fame trainer Charlie Whittingham. The victory was the first for Numerous in 4 starts this year. He picked up a check of $72,540 for owner Howard Keck. The $1.7 million Keeneland sales yearling of 1991, a son of Mr. Prospector out of the Nijinsky second mare Number, bred by Claiborne Farm. Despite the victory, there will be no Derby for Numerous, but Whittingham does plan to run him in the second jewel of the Triple Crown, the Preakness Stakes. Well, for the most complete and up-to-date preview of this year's Kentucky Derby, join us on ESPN Live Saturday at 2:30 Eastern Time, our 2-hour special, including coverage of the 3 stakes before the Derby and a special live cut-in of the Virginia Gold Cup steeplechase race. But now let's take our final look at Caesar's future book odds for this year's Kentucky Derby. You see, Holy Bull now is the single favorite at 9-5, followed by Bracco, the Santa Anita Derby winner, Tabasco Cat, Strode's Creek at 7, Soul of the Matter at 8-1. Well, the man who's been giving us these future book odds every week at Caesars, Lou D'Amico, remembers one of the biggest payoffs they've ever had to make at Caesars on a recent Kentucky Derby.
When unbridled, finished third in the Fountain of Youth, I believe, probably about 3 years ago. We had Unbridled at 150 to 1 in our future book. Prior to the Fountain of Youth, we had a customer come up and bet 500 on Unbridled in the future book. So there was certainly a lot of value there for that customer.
Well, let's give you an update now on the Daily Racing Form Fantasy Stables contest with cash and prizes to the top money-earning stables every week, leading to that $10,000 grand prize at the end of the Triple Crown. Through the first 3 weeks of the contest, the top 100 stables are within $325,000 of the leading national total, which is more than $2.3 million in earnings. Take a look now at our trades as we focus on the two big races coming up, and of course the Kentucky Oaks on Friday for the fillies, and the Derby on Saturday. As you see, we've added Strode's Creek, the Billion Filly Lakeway, Valiant Nature, Tabasco Cat, and Southern Rhythm to our fantasy stables, looking to add to that. And a reminder, the Daily Racing Form Kentucky Derby Special Edition goes on sale this Friday. All the past performances, inside features on Derby 120. As we go to the break, let's take a look now at the Thoroughbred Racing Communications National Poll. Of the top 3-year-olds heading to the Kentucky Derby, Holy Bull remains #1. Not much of a change. Valiant Nature up to 4. Ergun, of course, out of the Derby. He still ranks #5 in the poll, though. And here is the second 5, rounding out with Go for Gin. The Daily Racing Form Racehorse Digest is brought to you by America's Turf Authority, the Daily Racing Form, by the Illinois Department of Agriculture, promoting Illinois-bred horses year-round, by Gainesboro Farm, and by the United States Trotting Association, leading the way in harness racing.
Entry headed by Under Orders, who left from post 9 and sprinted to a sizzling 26 3/5 opening quarter with driver Stéphane Bouchard.
En tournant du clubhouse, moving over to the half-mile pole. Under Orders mène le bal. Under Orders has the lead. Deuxième, second half to Parlons, the nom des comptes Native Born. 55 et 1 à la demi. The first half in a blazing 55-1. À l'extérieur, outside, c'est Lotusol. Maintenant, quatrième, now fourth. Ready to rumble. Cinquième, fifth, Village Jiffy. Bilateral on the extreme outside, à l'extérieur, tout à fait. Shady Daisies now gaining ground. Huitième, 8. That is Campton Fantastic. Et à l'arrière du peloton, threading the field. Courteous Mark. On franchit le 3/4 de Milan, 23 et 1. 3/4, 123-1. There at the top of the stretch. On arrive maintenant dans le droit. Under Orders. Lotusol à l'extérieur, outside. Shady Daisies now gaining ground. Maintenant quatrième. Now fourth as they're coming down to the wire. Alors qu'on vient compléter. That is Village Jiffy. Bilateral in between horses. Under Orders. Lotusol outside. Under Orders with Lotusol. Les voici, here they are.
Robinson trains the top 7 money-winning horses in North America, and Under Orders moved up to #3 with this victory for owners Joseph and Anthony Spadafora of Ontario. This was a new lifetime mark for Under Orders, who has won 11 of 16 starts this season for nearly $177,000 in earnings. Robinson had 4 mares in the $46,000 Guys and Dolls Pacing Series final on Saturday afternoon at Freehold Raceway, including the 2 winners from the April 23rd elimination heats, Maya Tross and Very Rare.
They're at the 3/4 pole. It's the Mo and Very Rare on top of full 8. On the outside, Empty Feeling up to challenge Maya Tross for second, 3/4 and 1, 26 3. On to the final turn, and the Guys and Dolls along the inside. Very Rare hangs on the lead. Empty Feelings not through yet. She's right there to challenge. Maya Tross in the pocket third. Here's a late rush on the far outside for China Princess and Bill O'Donnell. They head for the wire. Very Rare down on the inside. Maya Tross coming late for Campbell. They move to the wire. It's Maya Tross down on the inside to win the Guys and Dolls in 155 flat.
The 1-2 favorite, Very Rare, could not hold off stablemate Maya Tross, who won for the 3rd straight time for owner Joseph Leonardis of Ontario. The 4-year-old daughter of the great Nia Tross boosted her season's earnings to nearly $60,000 with the victory. 3-year-old pacing fillies were in the spotlight Friday night at Mohawk Raceway, and it was Tarport Cat with driver Bill Gale edging out Car Trouble with Steve Condren to win the $43,000 final of the Princess Pacing Series. It was the first victory of the season for Tarport Cat, and her winning time of 1:56 2/5 was a new lifetime mark for this daughter of Big Towner, who is owned by Canadian Hall of Fame horsemen Keith Waples and Mike Hennewick.
We had a great opportunity this past weekend to be part of horse racing history in the state of Texas. Finally, after more than half a century, pari-mutuel horse racing returned to the great city of Houston with the debut of Texas' first Class 1 racetrack, Sam Houston Race Park. The $85 million facility with a state-of-the-art grandstand built to hold 12,000 people is quite a facility in the city of Houston. In fact, they have total capacity, if possible, of some 30,000. Here's the very first race, and what a race it was. Right down to the wire, a Texas-bred Sir Fitzwillie wins to pay $35.80. Now, in the feature, the $100,000 Governor's Day Handicap, two graded stakes winners here. Prize Fight and Bull in the Heather battled it out, with the locally owned Prize Fight coming on the outside to win by a neck. The opening day crowd, 16,568, bet just over $1.3 million on the 10 live races, gave the new Sam Houston Park high marks, as have the horsemen. Our congratulations to everyone there. Well, we have more thoroughbred racing action for you now here on the Digest. Let's get right to it here as we'll take a look at other three-year-olds who decided to pass on the Kentucky Derby Trail. For this, we'll be heading to Sportsman's Park outside Chicago for the $500,000 Illinois Derby. The odds-on 1-2 favorite in Illinois was the Jim's Beam winner, Polar Expedition, expected to take the lead and win for fun. Well, he did get the lead early, but then he got a surprise from Rustic Light. Here's the Illinois Derby.
Rustic Light opens up to 3. Polar Expedition fades. Rustic Light on the lead. Amethyst running late, trying to run down Seminole, win for second. But Rustic Light is the best. He will take the 37th running of the Illinois Derby. Rustic Light by 3.
8-1 long shot. Rustic Light gets his first graded stakes win under the wily veteran Early Fires the Illinois Derby, while the race favorite Jim Beam winner Polar Expedition didn't care for the muddy track, came home last by more than 22 lengths. The Robert Hale trainee, even though he was 8-1, no slouch before this win, having earned more than $224,000. His first place check here more than doubles that to $524,000. Now to California, opening weekend at Hollywood Park, Sunday's mile and 1/8, $154,000 John Henry Handicap. Featured here, the Breeders' Cup Classic upset winner R. Kong. He was back on the turf and went off at 3-2 in the 4-horse field.
Earl of Barking now. Kingdom Found on the outside, getting out just a little. 2 lengths back to R. Kong. He can quite quicken with him now, but might come running later. Missile couldn't sprint either, and he's dropped out last. At the top of the lane in the John Henry and Earl of Barking, the leader. Here comes R. Kong. Kingdom Found on the outside. They run for home, and R. Kong is now sprinting between horses. The Grey Missile coming with a late run, and Earl of Barking. But R. Kong is kicking on gamely, and he's back. R. Kong and Eddie Dallahousie win the John Henry. Missile running on second, then Earl of Barking and Kingdom Found tired to last.
R. Kong is no one-race wonder. He backs up that Breeders' Cup Classic upset on the dirt with a Grade 2 turf victory here in the John Henry. And according to Earl of Barking's jockey Chris McCarron, who finished third in the race, R. Kong probably could have won by 10 lengths or more if rider Eddie Dallahousie, you see here in the blue, would have let him run. That would seem to indicate you'll be hearing a lot more from R. Kong in the future, specifically the Hollywood Turf Handicap. New trainer Dick Mandela hopes to go on to the Hollywood Gold Cup after that. Now for another turf event that was rained out last week. 62nd running of the mile and a half, $200,000 Hialeah Turf Cup. Odds on here in the red, white, and blue colors of Madeline Paulson. Another Breeders' Cup champion named Phrase, but there would be an upset in the Hialeah Turf Cup.
And they head for home in the Hialeah Turf Cup Handicap. Flying American and Phrase on even terms. A wad into the third spot. Turk Passer still in with a shot. Phrase a short lead. Flying American. A wad to the outside. Gonna test Phrase right to the wire. A wad trying to spring the upset, and he runs by. A wad has got him. Phrase second. A wad.
Well, if they'd run the Hialeah Turf Cup last Sunday, Awad would not have been in the winner's circle, let alone the race. But after the Turf Cup was rained out, the field was redrawn. They lost strolling along and gained the eventual winner, Awad. A horse who finished fourth to Phrase the Pan American at Gulfstream. Awad, a 4-year-old son of Caveat, took home $120,000 for the victory. The trainer David Donk and owner Rye Hill Farm, his career earnings now over $215,000. Let's wrap up our thoroughbred recap in Northern California, Golden Gate Fields. Yet another turf event. This the 16th running of the $150,000 Countess Figure Handicap for fillies and mares. Favored in the race, the French-bred Oxava.
Zuniqua leads to the 8th pole. Oxava in hot pursuit with Ascanita down the extreme outside. Zuniqua still the leader. She's a length and a half clear from Ascanita and Oxava. It's going to be a big win here as they go to the line. Zuniqua all the way from Ascanita.
Zuniqua wins wire to wire as the 5-2 second choice here in the Grade 3 Countess Figure at Golden Gate. Zuniqua, the stablemate to Kentucky Oaks hopeful Sardula, is also trained by Brian Maybury, owned by Mr. and Mrs. Jerry Moss. The rider credited with the pace-saving ride here, Rafael Meza. Well, the classic European season is underway. The 2000 Guineas at Newmarket this past Saturday, won by a long shot, 16-1, Mr. Bailey's, making his first start since last fall. And he did it very impressively under a new journeyman rider, Jason Weaver, winning by a head over Grand Lodge. The time for the mile, 1:35.4, the fastest in Newmarket history. Our Breeders' Cup Horse of the Week comes from Oak Lawn Park, the $65,000 added 5th season Breeders' Cup race on April 23rd. On the lead in the famed green and orange silks of multiple Eclipse Award-winning owner John Franks is his thoroughbred, Nelson. The 7-year-old took the lead early and held it all the way here under jockey Shane Romero. The Bay's son of 1977 Triple Crown winner Seattle Slew out of the Mr. Prospector mare, Whit Watersand, was bred in Kentucky by Ed Seltzer and Amhervest Thoroughbred Partners. Nelson covered the mile on the 16th in 1:43 over a fast track. He earned $41,640, including $15,000 in Breeders' Cup funds because Nelson was nominated to the Breeders' Cup program. One premium, one special stake coming up this weekend in the Breeders' Cup program. Horse Digest, that takes us back to Texas where, by the way, the first quarter horse meet at that Class 1 Sam Houston Race Park will be held July 1st through September 18th in Houston. But for the top races of this past weekend, we head to Bandera Downs outside of San Antonio, a pair of Grade 1 events, the Kansas Futurity and the Kansas Derby. Now, the 350-yard Futurity was, for years, the first jewel in the quarter horse racing Triple Crown when it was held at Ruidoso, New Mexico. It's still one of the sport's most prestigious events, a purse of more than $158,000. This year's fastest qualifier, 1 or 2 supplements to the finals. Here he is on the track, Smokin' Sparks. And the other one, Sweet By and By, winner of 3 straight, including the Grade 3 winner maker. Here's the call now from Bandera of the Kansas Futurity.
Bandera, classy runaway, Sweet By and By. Smokin' Sparks is right there in that front flight. Here comes Meritable Ease from the inside. Coming after Smokin' Sparks, the fastest qualifier. It's Sweet By and By, but it will be Smokin' Sparks prevailing.
Watch the fastest qualifier, the one-horse Smokin' Sparks. He's not only good, he's also lucky. You see all the collision inside of him, outside of him. He's got a free run here in the Kansas Futurity, and he makes the most of it. Favorite Sweet By and By got up for the place despite the trouble at the start, while Smokin' Sparks' Intermate Classy Runaway made it home with the show, 17:82 the time for the 350-yard Kansas Futurity. Smokin' Sparks is by Dash for Perks, ridden here in the Kansas by Larry Payne. And the winner's circle here for trainer John Talley, the 2-year-old owned by George Temple. Now let's go back to Saturday's $94,000 Kansas Derby at 400 yards. There's one of the top contenders, Good and Gorgeous. Part of entry to go off as the second choice to Dash By for Randy, who, by the way, won last year's Kansas Futurity. He's 5-2 in the Kansas Derby this year, so he would get anything but a clean trip.
And they're off. Dash By for Randy bobbles, recovers quickly, raised in society from the outside with Mama Rona. Dash By for Randy, hooked on Son the Palomino. Now Lodina, one of the fillies. Good and Gorgeous, closest to the grandstand side. This Kansas Derby is wide open. Good and Gorgeous from the outside. Stormin' Avenger. In between them, it's Lodina, 3 in the photo.
Let's take another look now at the Kansas Derby. The eventual winner on the outside, 1A. Watch Dash By for Randy, though. The Kansas Futurity winner a year ago goes to his knees almost at the start of this race. Then has problems getting sandwiched and sent sideways. Meanwhile, Good and Gorgeous on the outside after lugging out a bit at the break, pretty much left to herself. Comes on to capture the Derby by a neck under jockey Tram Telg, as you see here. Following Good and Gorgeous home, 17-1 long shot, Stormin' Avenger. Then came 6-1, Hooked on Son. Good and Gorgeous covering the 400 yards of the Derby in 20 and 15. Good and Gorgeous, the daughter of the great Dash for Cash, trained by Jim Brock for owners Bob and Sandy Irwin as you see the winner's circle of the Kansas Derby. Before we leave you, some very special programming reminders for you this weekend at the Kentucky Derby at Churchill Downs. We'll begin Friday, live 5 to 6 o'clock Eastern, our live Thrifty Car Rental Racing Across America Series telecast of the Fillies Derby, the historic Kentucky Oaks. The favorite expected to be Mike Rutherford's brilliant undefeated filly from California, Lakeway. Seen here winning the Grade 1 Santa Anita Oaks, coming on the outside in the blue and red Lakeway, trained by Gary Jones. Also part of our Oaks telecast will be live coverage of the Early Times Turf Classic featuring the Breeders' Cup champion Lure. Then on Saturday, our live Kentucky Derby 2-hour special gets you ready for the Derby starting at 2:30 Eastern. And then for the first time, ESPN presents a half-hour post-Derby special at 6 p.m. Eastern to wrap up the first jewel of the Thoroughbred Triple Crown. Let's take a look now at our times next week here on the Digest. We'll be joining you our regular time Tuesday at 3:30, replays 11 o'clock Pacific, Saturday morning 6 o'clock Eastern. Until then, good luck at the races. See you from Churchill Downs. The Daily Racing Form, RaceHorse.